a huge CCU welcome to Brian Dawkins.
X gon' give it to you, he gon' give it to you. X gon' give it to you, he gon' give it to you. First we gonna rock, then we gonna fall, then we let it pop, don't let it go. X gon' give it to you, he gon' give it to you. X gon' give it to you.
Well, I tell you what, man, people love you in this area.
Mutual. It's feelings mutual. Feelings mutual.
You know, in the 15-year history of our church, we have never had to start a service 10 minutes late just to get people into the parking lot. Well, I tell you what, let me read a couple things. So, in 16 years, you had 26 sacks as a safety, 17 fumble recoveries, 37 interceptions, 42 forced fumbles, the most ever by a defensive back in the NFL. 98 pass breakups, named to the Pro Bowl 9 times, named to the NFL's all-decade team of the 2000s, named to the Philadelphia Eagles' 75th anniversary team. You are easily one of the most beloved Eagles to ever put on a jersey. It's a privilege to have you here. When did people start loving you like this in this town?
I think it probably was very early. All right, I'm talking about after probably my rookie year.
Really?
And you know, right away, I think that people recognize the difference in how I played. I know a lot of people say that some guys play like their hair on fire. You know, mine was on fire, and I was loving it. So that's different. So if I'm playing full speed, if I'm giving everything that I have, and you can kind of tell that I play with my emotions on my sleeves as well. And I think a lot of people, it registered for a lot of people.
Yeah. You know, I heard somewhere that when you first came to town, you got to ride in a taxi somewhere. I don't know if they were taking you to your house or whatever. And you got some advice from a taxi driver. What did he say to you?
Now, this was awesome. This was me and my wife. We was actually taking us for my first time landing in Philadelphia after I was drafted. And so we're headed to the facility, actually. And he said, the first thing he said was, do not listen to WIP. And the second thing he said is, we hate Dallas. So if you recognize and do those two things, you'll be good.
Did you hear back there that when you hit Romo, I mean, people went nuts, man.
And that's every time. Like every time you see that specific highlight, no matter wherever I am, they always cheer when that happens.
Oh, wow.
It felt good, too. It felt good.
Well, hey. We're privileged to have you here. We want to start by taking you back before you were famous, but when you were just a little kid. And I heard somewhere that, in fact, I think you told me that your dad coached you in football. And you're coaching your son now.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, if you were coaching
your
your son, I don't know, on his chess team, it wouldn't be intimidating. But if you were my dad, that would have to be intimidating to have you coach me as a kid. What was that like to have your dad coach you?
It was awesome because my dad, his temperament is a lot, he's not as fired up as I am, let's just say it like that. But when it comes to coaching, I'm a different person. I don't allow that part of me to come completely out, that I was showing on the football field. But my dad, it was awesome, man. My dad is a very patient man. It takes so much for him to get upset. So to see him coaching and see my brother out there playing really invited me to play football because I didn't like watching football when I was younger. I only watched basketball, and I played football only in the neighborhoods. I didn't do any organized football right away.
Who were some of the really influential people in your life growing up?
Oh, my dad, number one. It was an absolute blessing to have a man in the house that I can watch daily to show me how to act and react and handle situations, how to stand up and do what he's supposed to do. My dad would work sometimes 2 and 3 jobs at different points. And that's really how he got out of coaching. He couldn't coach anymore because he had to pick up a couple more, some more jobs from time to time and doing little odds and end jobs to bring in income to the household. So that seeing him in the household blessed me tremendously because of the patient man that he still is. So he would be the number one, absolute. And obviously I've had coaches in my life that have seen different things in me and talked me into believing in myself more than I had already than I already was.
I tell people, one of the most, other than my father, like you, one of the most influential people in my life was my high school football coach. You know, I tell people that he taught me more about being just a pastor and a leader, watching him lead than anybody else. And so it was really cool.
It's crazy. If you say you're a high school football coach, I would say my high school basketball coach.
Why is that?
Because we ran so much.
Really? They ran you all the time?
He was more of a negative reinforcer guy.
Scream, would he like
So
scream and stuff?
nothing we did was ever good enough. So we would run constantly. So that built in me that if I can survive this dude, that I can survive anything else. So he taught me he taught me mental toughness is what he did.
Were you any good at basketball?
I was.
Really?
I could, you know, people say we play above the rim. I was one of those guys that play above the rim.
Really?
Yes.
You can dunk?
Yes.
One hand, two hands?
Could.
You could not dunk. You could.
I still can do it, but it takes a lot more warming up. I got to stretch a little bit and get warmed up. But no, I can't jump the way that I used to. Not even close.
So when you were a little kid, did you want to be a professional football player? Like, what was your favorite team? Who did you look up to? When you
I did not want to be a professional football player. It was not even on my radar when I was growing up. I wanted to be a professional basketball player. I thought that was where it was. You know, problem was I stopped growing and my left hand stopped developing. So that kind of nixed that real quick. But football, once I recognized, since I saw my brother, my dad coaching my brother so much, and I saw them having so much fun, I decided to try it out. Probably around 12 or 13 years old is when I went for organized football. And I was always one of the fastest guys in the neighborhood and all those things. So that led me to try and even give more of myself into football. And then, you know, because we're in Jacksonville, Florida, we did not have a team at that point.
Right.
We really were subject to just look at the people on the TV. So the teams at that time, obviously I'm in Florida, so Miami, they showed a lot. I loved to watch Lewis Oliver, safety. Went to Florida and went to play to Miami. I love to watch Lott out there with the 49ers. Love the way that he plays the game. And, you know, some people are not going to like this. You know, I was a Dallas fan for a little while.
We'd like to thank you for coming here. Well, I tell you what, one of my favorite writers, Warren Bennis, he wrote a book on leadership, and he studied CEOs in this country, but this was about 15, 20 years ago. And he found that some of the most successful CEOs in our nation are people that, not coincidentally, he found, were married to their first spouse. And he surmised, he felt that it was, if you were the kind of person that could be married to one person who's going to give you constant objective feedback, then you're the kind of person that can get feedback from everybody else and actually grow and learn and become a leader. And I find it interesting that you met your wife. She's like your high school sweetheart.
Yes, she is.
How did you meet her? Give us that story.
Man,
and did she like you first, or did you like her?
Man, it was always her liking me, man. She was always yeah, right. That's never the case. I met my beautiful wife. We've been together since we were 15 years old. So
15. Wow.
You know, I first met her when I was in the 8th grade, though. I was actually girlfriend and boyfriend with one of her friends at the time. We won't get into all of that. But I did not meet her until we got to high school. And so one of my friends knew that I used to watch her a lot. They call that stalking now.
Yes.
But he knew I would never grab up the strength to go up and approach her. So he told her I wanted to meet her and pick the spot and everything. And so I was, you know, initially upset at that. I said, "Why did you do that?" And then I was like, "Hey, what did she say? What did she say?" And you know, the rest is kind of history. But you know, to be able to have that beautiful woman in my life that has kept me grounded in so many areas, in so many ways. And to know that, you know, before I met my wife, and you told me to describe the woman that I would love to marry, you know, that what I would say and who she is right now matches up so well. So the Lord has blessed me tremendously.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd say the same thing. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'm thinking this is what didn't make sense to me until we talked, that You're in Jacksonville. I'm thinking you're going to go to Florida State. I'm thinking you're going to what? Or Florida or How did you end up in Clemson? How did you end up playing for them?
Man, being from Florida, I knew I was going to Florida. I love Florida. I wanted to be a Gator. I had practiced the Gator chomp and everything. So I knew I was going to be a Gator. And they were recruiting me. But the thing that happened was I was not a big recruit. I was not, in today's system, I may have been no bigger than a 3-star, 2-star, 3-star type of recruit, so to speak. Not player, but recruit. Mm-hmm. It's different. But I did not do what I was supposed to do earlier in my academic career. So I did not have the GPA where it needed to be going into my senior year. And because I was not a big recruit, they did not take a chance on me. Well, Clemson did, all right? But it was after I was trying to go to South Carolina first. So I knew I was going to be at South Carolina. Long story short, I did not want to go too far away from my girlfriend then, my wife now, Connie. So going to South Carolina was not that far away. And so I called them one day, all day, trying to get in touch with somebody to tell them I want to come there. I couldn't get in touch with anybody. My friend Patrick Sapp called, he was a big recruit from Jacksonville, went to the same high school as me. He said, "Why are you trying to go to South Carolina? They do not send people to the pros on defense." So I said, let me talk to my guy at Clemson. So he called Clemson up, the recruiter there. Long story short, obviously, I talked to him. They took a chance on me, and I was a Clemson Tiger.
Well, I'll tell you what. In high school, I was a free safety and a quarterback. And every free safety I know I've ever talked to, you're going to fit in one of two. I love your socks, by the way. You see these socks? It's like, you know what? I'm Brian Dawkins. I can wear whatever socks I want.
Gotta have fun. If you can't have fun on your socks, gotta have fun. You can't be serious all the time.
You're working the socks. All right. But every free safety I've ever met falls in one of two categories. It's the safety who's a hitting safety and an interception safety. Which one are you? I'm pretty sure we can all guess.
Oh, it's all about interceptions, bro. I was always
yeah, you're right. Did you even have any interceptions?
Just a couple of them. That's why I had only 37. I dropped so many because I was trying to hit people all the time. But no, I've always been a contact guy, and that goes back to Little League, to be honest with you. I consider myself to be a contact safety because I love
Little
contact.
League, you knew.
Even
you were
Little
like,
League.
I would rather hit you than honestly get a safety.
The perfect play for me. The perfect play for me is what I was blessed to do against Dallas twice. My last game playing against them as an Eagle, to hit somebody hard, cause a fumble, my teammates scoop it, and we score. That's the perfect play for me. Perfect play. Perfect play. But to get to that physical part of it, the reason why I love contact so much. No, I don't have a lot of time here. I know that.
Take your time. No, we're good.
The reason why I love contact so much is because my first year playing organized football, I had a chance to play for two coaches. All right, one of my coaches was new, the one that I chose. It was a coach that had been there for a while. He had his team. I chose to go with the new coach. The next year that I played, that new coach had got another position higher up. So I then had to go to the coach that I chose not to play for.
And he didn't like that.
He did not like that. And to this day, he told my dad that you just don't understand how physical and how good he is at blocking. So he put me at center. So I played center for 2 years. 2 years. My dad would not let me quit, so he taught me a lesson there. If you start something, you're going to finish it. And then he paid his money, too, so he definitely wasn't going to let me quit. But he taught me a lesson. So I practiced in the trenches, so to speak. That's why I have so much respect for those grunts, I call them.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was in there for 2 years, even though that I was probably one of the fastest guys on the team, and I wasn't a big guy. So I had to go against bigger kids, and that developed the love for contact that I have.
At that early of an age.
Yes.
That's
I
awesome.
loved it.
So you get drafted by the Eagles, and I find it interesting that sort of like at Clemson, you didn't start at Clemson, and then when you came to the Eagles, you didn't start your first game. And what was that like at each place? You go to each place and it's like you're proving yourself. Because we're thinking, Brian Dawkins, you're coming out of the birth canal with a football in your hand, you know? But you didn't start. What was that like?
No, it's just development. As I look back over my life now, and we all kind of do this a little bit as we get older, is you look back and see how God's hand began to work and begin to open things up, open doors up that normally probably would not have opened. And, when I got to Clemson, there was a guy by the name of Darnell Stevens there. He was an all-ACC punt returner, and he's a second-team all-ACC strong safety. And here I am coming in 5'10 and a half, 5'11", 170 pounds, soaking wet, coming into Clemson. And then what happened that after that first year, he ate himself into a linebacker's role. So he was an outside linebacker. So he basically moved.
We're on that plan, all right.
So that door swung wide open for me. Now, I was doing everything in my power I was going to beat him out. In my mind, I don't care who's in front of me, but it's going to be hard to beat an all-ACC a guy out of that position. And then when it came to the NFL, the Lord put guys in my life that even though that Eric Zomalt knew that at some point that I was probably going to beat him out, he still was helping me out. Like he was helping me about
says a lot
calls
about him.
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so looking at the leaders that I had, the veterans that I had, Troy Vincent and those guys, that's one of the reasons that I decided to make sure that any safety that came into the Philadelphia Eagles, any player for the most part, but especially safeties, I would try my best to help them out as much as I could.
Did you, so you're drafted, you're playing, when did you have one of those, oh my gosh, moments where you're playing against somebody that you looked up to, or a hero of yours, or you're lined up against someone? Who was that person? What was that team? Or did you have one of those moments that even go through your mind?
It probably would have had to have been against Dallas. Being from Florida, watching Emmitt Smith all the years at Florida.
Right. Oh, that would have been something.
He grew up in Pensacola. I'm in Jacksonville, so I knew a lot about him, and to finally get on the football field. And also I was to school with his brother, Emory. Emory was the fullback at Clemson when I was there, so I knew him from there as well. So to finally get a chance to stick it to him was awesome. It was awesome.
Hey, so the way I see it is your football career went like this, but for the first few years at the Eagles, it went like this. What was that like playing for a team that was 3-13, and how did the fans treat you?
Well, the fans are, it is what it is when it comes to our fans. They're going to love you hard. They're going to let you know exactly what they feel about you.
Yeah, but Eagles fans are different. They would punch their grandmother if we lost.
That's what I'm saying. But the thing is that they're going to, like I said, they're going to let you know how they feel. They're not going to keep it to themselves. They're going to be out loud with it. But I think that the thing that we tried to do, especially on the defensive side of the ball, is we tried to make sure that we held one another accountable to never give up, no matter what the score was, no matter what the offense was, and we're not doing. I love my offensive teammates, but we were going to make sure that we were never going to give up. I don't care who we lost up front. I remember years I think we had Ike at one point playing defensive end, because we had so many injuries. That still didn't stop us from giving everything that we had.
One of the things I've loved watching you in the media is you're very transparent about yourself. And while your career was going like this, off the field, you had some real struggles your first year, and you've talked openly about that. What was going on?
Man, when you are able to get delivered from something, from the awesome power that I believe that I serve, and through the Lord Jesus Christ, why would I not? Why would I keep that to myself? First of all, that's why I share what I've gone through and what I've overcome so openly. And what he's talking about is when I came into the National Football League, when I made it, a lot of my family members thought that we all made it. So whatever it is that I got, they were going to get just exactly what I got. And obviously that can't be the case. But I never got into, I'm from the South, and I've never gotten into truly huge arguments and altercations with any of my family. So when they're pulling at me on this side, my beautiful wife is saying, listen, we can't give all this money out and survive with this nucleus. That pulled me in too many different directions.
How old were you at this time?
Oh, it was 21.
21. You instantly become a professional football player. You get hit with money and all that pressure. That had to be just incredibly difficult to just say no.
Exactly. And I could not say no early. That was the problem. I was not saying no enough. And, then when I did start saying no, that kind of ruffled feathers, It messed up relationships. I can tell you at one point in my career, I did not speak to my parents for like 7 years because of some of the things that I was going through. And through that rookie year, I went through a real deep depression into my second and third year, especially my rookie year. Thinking about suicide and taking medicine and going to see therapists about the things that I was feeling and trying to get some of that stuff out, keeping things. We're not, we as men, we don't let things out. We keep things bottled up, and it decays us from the inside. And so I had to take things. And so at that point, either I was going to go down that path of doing what those dark visions was telling me to do, or I was going to completely give my life over to Christ.
I've talked openly. There were a couple times I was seriously depressed. I was medication, and I went to a therapist. And who did you tell? Because when I was going through that, it wasn't like people would ask me, how you doing? I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to therapy and I'm on medication.
Absolutely not.
It's great. How about you?
Absolutely not. You put on, we do a good job of putting that mask on, and that's what I did. You put that mask on. Listen, I am in the National Football League. I play for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's my second year. I'm feeling great. Everything is wonderful until I walked out the door, until I got in my car, until I'm driving home trying to think of ways how to end it all and let my wife still get the insurance money. That's where I was. So at that point, I'm like, listen, either you're going to do that or you're going to live your life for Christ, who he had been calling me for a while. I can sense that he had been calling me, but I kept shucking and jiving, so to speak, and not giving my all to him. Well, I decided that it was time. Either I was going to do it that way or if I was going to come to him, and I decided to come to him especially through the people that he put in my life at that time.
Well, we're glad you did. That's awesome, man. Hey, let me ask you a question. So you spent a little bit of time at Denver. This is a side question. I haven't asked you that. And you had a chance to spend some time with Tebow, okay? Like, to me, there were like two ways of being a Christian. There's your way, and then there's the Tebow way.
The Tebow, that's a new one.
You know what I'm saying? Well, when you were with him, what was he like behind the scenes? Or were you kind of like, you know what, we need to turn it down a couple notches? You know,
you live your life for Christ the way that he's given you the heart to live it. I mean, for some, we've all have different gifts and different abilities. If you look at how many people Tim has affected with his
absolutely,
with his infectious, outgoing ways. Listen, that's what God placed in his heart and how to do it.
Plus, he was a 21-year-old kid at the time too. When he came right out of the chute. Exactly. When I was a new Christian, I was worse than him. I mean, more in your face than all of that.
Yeah, but he's a great dude. He really is. Hardworking guy. Don't know if football will ever work out for him because he has not learned the things he needs to learn in order to dominate in the pros, obviously, like he did in college.
All right, so you've been married to your wife 20-plus years. You're a professional athlete. Obviously, temptations are coming at you right and left. How hard was it to navigate professional football? Like, around here, it's hard. There are pastor groupies. I mean, there are people. It's hard, when you look like an Abercrombie model, you know what I'm saying? But for you, that's like a whole nother level. What was that like?
It's one of those things that being mindful of, first of all, the faith and the God that I serve. When I told my beautiful wife that I would marry her, I was not making that just to her. I was making that agreement with the Father. This is what I believe, and this is how I look at it for myself, all right? Not everybody's like that, and I understand that, but that's just the way that I believe it is. And so when I go out, the main thing that I always have to take with me is my faith wherever I go, and I have to continuously tell me no, all right? Tell this stuff, flesh, no, like to shut up, like stop, like leave me alone type of stuff, because it sometimes it does get bad. And being able to, I read the book called Every Man's Battle. Yeah. I've learned to bounce my eyes. You bounce your eyes and you move on, just like
Victoria's Secret's commercial comes on. Nope.
I turn the station. No channel surfing late at night. It's just certain things that I know how the enemy would try to attack me, especially after the games. That's one of the
really when you're tired.
I'm still jacked up from the game. Like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm sore, but I'm still going. My testosterone, everything is still rolling.
Right.
So you have to have something to beat all of that down, and that was my faith.
So in those golden years, to me, I consider them golden because we're on a. It's
no, we're moving in the right direction now.
All right, but no, when you were there. When the Eagles were in their, some of the great years, and you're making it to the Super Bowl, who are the players that you wouldn't have guessed that he did this behind the scenes? The
coach, as far as what?
They were jokers, or they had really weird habits.
Not really behind the scenes. It's kind of obvious who the jokesters were. Hugh, Hollis. I mean, you can't. There was nothing off limits when it came to those two. Seriously.
Yeah.
No, listen, when I say nothing, I don't care. If you got in trouble for anything, you best believe they're going to mess with you about it. It's just one of those things. But we had a lot of guys on the football team that were pranksters, though. A lot of them. Donovan was probably one of the biggest ones as far as being a prankster.
Really?
Absolutely.
Huh.
Absolutely.
All right, so I heard that you had, unlike everybody else on the team, you had 2 lockers. You had your locker and who's the other one for?
Weapon X, and I also call him Idiot Man because of
Weapon
what I did.
X.
Weapon X.
Where did that come from?
Weapon X is really, I've always been an emotional guy. I think that's another reason Philly fans kind of are warmed up to him pretty quick. I've always been an emotional guy. I was that kid that would cry when he strikes out in football. We lose a game, I'm always crying. I don't want to get away from me. I don't want to shake your hand after the game if we lose. So I had to learn to control all those things. So I've always been an emotional guy. And then when we were playing in the playoffs against the Rams, I believe it was, the news networks are always looking for a new story. They're always looking for something new to go on. And so they saw all the figurines I had of Wolverine in my locker. One of the producers called them dolls, and I made sure that he knew right away. They're not dolls, dude. They are not dolls. They're figurines. They're completely different. They're not dolls. And so, yada, yada, yada. I told him how much I loved him and how much, he has a dark side. I have a dark side to me. He doesn't back down from battles. I don't back down, even though I'm probably going to lose the fight at some point. I don't care about all of that. So I think a lot of parallels was there. And then when in battle, he completely acted a fool, and I tried to act a fool on the football field.
I mean, just like you had a split personality. I mean,
Absolutely.
You're like calm, very kind, that sort of thing. And
If you flip that switch.
Oh, yeah. It was like, man. Hey, that leads me into this next question.
In my eyes.
I know. I don't want to stare at you. It was like Vincent. We had Vincent here years ago. He came in, and I shook my hand. He was like, "Anointed word of God, Pastor." I was like, "Please don't kill me." And I mean, you're the only one. When I wear a suit, my biceps show like this when I'm wearing the suit and stuff. But you're like Lombardi. Vince Lombardi said that what he loved about football is that football was controlled violence. And you're like the poster child for that, man. And so, really quick, do we have this clip? Show me. I want to show you about 5 clips here.
Here comes up, ready or not. Here comes the boys for the sound. Here comes up, ready or not. How you like me now? I say we rep the South. So what you talking about? I'm not running out my mouth. I know this without a doubt. 'Cause if you know these streets, then these streets know you.
How many? My doctor said I have back problems from playing high school football, man. I cannot. Like, how many concussions did you have? How many knee surgeries have you had?
Concussions, if you say knocking out is the criterion, 3 times. If you're saying that lights completely out, I can't remember stuff, that 3 times. As far as surgery is concerned, this is the only zipper that I have, that little on my hand. That's the only zipper that I have. That's it. That's it. That's all I've had. So the Lord has blessed me.
That's amazing.
And that's another reason that I get so fired up when I even have a chance to talk about, the God that I serve, is the fact that he allowed me to play as stupid as I did on the football field. And I came out running out, not walking out, not limping out, nothing hurting on me. So that's
great.
Awesome,
let me
and by the way, Jim Johnson called it controlled chaos.
He did?
That's what he called his defense, controlled chaos.
Devil's advocate here. President Obama said that if he had a son, he wouldn't allow him to play football, particularly professional football, because of the concussions and that sort of thing. How do you respond to that? What do you say to that? Because football's not going away in America, and what do you say to that? Well,
to each his own when it comes to that. And every household makes your decision on what you want your son or daughter, not just football, but what you want your kids to play. And for me, I just know football has taught me too much. It's brought me so much, not just material things, but it's taught me so much. The leader, the man that you see in front of you, a lot of it is because of the things I had to learn to be a professional player. To be professional, you have to go home at night. To be a professional player, I have to be there for my teammates. To be a professional player, I have to still encourage you or be there for you, even though I can't stand you sometimes. You feel me? Mm-hmm. So you have to say no to a lot of pride in yourself to be a professional player. So that it's taught me too much for me to say that I wouldn't. Taught me how to deal with coaches, deal with my authority figures. Even though I may not like my coach, I still need to do what this dude's telling me to do, even though I don't agree with it. And at some point, hopefully we'll have a conversation. I can let him know that. But it taught me too much. So it has shaped me in too many areas of my life for me to say I don't want my son to do it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You know, I think one of the dumbest things the Eagles have ever done is not re-sign you.
I agree.
You agree?
I agree.
What personally did that do to you when that happened?
No, that hurt. It hurt. The only thing that I can equate it to is your mourning the loss of someone and someone that you care dearly about. And that's how I felt for a long time.
I mean, because you gave your heart and soul to the team, and it was like you still had great years ahead of you. And
Absolutely.
It was like,
and that's what I thought anyway. I mean, there's some other people that I guess didn't feel that way, but for me, it just hurt because that's not something that I ever saw coming. So it was a blindside thing, but this is what it did for me. I understand now why the Lord did that, why he sent me to Denver for some of the people that I was able to affect with his word.
We don't understand that. But
and I understand that because I still didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear that when I got there. I saw what I saw in the locker room. I saw some of the guys that needed direction, and I was not going to go up to them and put a soapbox in the middle of the locker room and let me preach a sermon. I always try to let my life preach my sermons. Whatever sermon that I have, my reactions, the same way my father did. So when I got there and I see now why he did that, but at the time, I did not want to hear that. It hurt. It hurt you bad.
So you went to Denver, and you killed it, man. It was like you had to have a huge chip on your shoulder. Like, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to prove you wrong.
I had a block, I've always been someone that I always use what people say that I cannot do. I'm not the biggest of guys. I really am not. When it came to football players, if you look at me and put me next to Trey Thomas, I'm not that big. John Runyon, really, I'm not that big. So when you look at it, I've always been said to be a small guy. So I've always used things that people say that I cannot do and use that and put that on the fuel of my fire. And for someone to tell me that you're getting too old and you can't do it at that level anymore, you best believe I put that on my pile.
Huh. You know, I heard somewhere that you said that when it came to retirement, you had at least another really good year in you. What was it like to contemplate and eventually walk away from the game of football? I mean, when I stopped playing football and I went to college, I had dreams that fall about football games. Like every night, it was like, how did you deal with that?
You still have those. I still have it. I'm
really?
I'm
you
late
miss it that much?
I'm late. No, I don't miss it. I still have it because it's a part of me.
Right.
When something's a part of you and you've loved it that much, you're going to have those dreams. But for me, this is because of the relationship that I have with my Father, Heavenly Father, all right? His voice spoke louder to me. The more that I study, the more that I listen to the right music or stay away or repent from the dumb stuff that I do on a consistent basis. So what I've always told him and the relationship that we have is, Lord, please let me know when it's time. Because I've seen some of the people that I've watched play the different sports, whether it be Larry Bird when he retired, Shaquille O'Neal, even Michael Jordan. I just watched those guys like the last 2 years of their careers, man. That wasn't the dude that I remember. And I never wanted to be that guy. I never wanted to look at film and me not recognize what I saw. Like, who is this dude? And I turn around, it's my number. Oh, that's me. Oh, man, that's horrible. I never wanted to be that guy. So I said, Father God, put it on my heart that when it's time for me to step away, give me peace about it. And even though that I knew that I could play for at least another year, another 2 years, that was the perfect opportunity for me to walk away, not limp away.
When you came back and the Eagles retired your jersey, like when you look at that picture in that stadium, and I remember you coming out on all fours, what did that say to you at that moment when you heard everybody cheering for you? And was that ultimately very satisfying? You know what, I'm coming back home.
All that was beautiful. All that was wonderful, all right? But let me tell you what was going through my heart at that time. Is that for me? Are you serious? Brian Dawkins from Jacksonville, Florida. Are you serious? See, honestly said, I've said this a million times, and I'll continue to say it. I believe I'm living somebody else's dream, I felt like. I didn't dream that big. I didn't dream too big to have my number retired and, to be considered to be one of the better players of an organization like the Eagles, or considered to be one of the better players at Clemson University of all time. I never had that as a plateau something. So when I saw that, I'm like, man, I can't believe this. It's a humbling thing for me. But I knew this, though, and I believe this to my heart, that the Lord blessed me exceedingly abundantly above what I asked or what I even imagined. So I'm living that. I'm not living somebody else's dream. I'm living what He had for me to have if I did what I did when I decided not to end my life, but to live my life.
That's great. That's awesome. But you know what? I got one more question, all right? I want you to look on the screen. We found a picture of one of the greatest high school quarterbacks to come out of the state of Ohio, all right?
I wonder who that is.
He had the moves of Barry Sanders. And I want you to do you think you could tackle me in the open field? Me and you, mano a mano. I know you're getting up in years. You're taking your Centrum Silver vitamins and everything. But you even have a chance with my stiff arm and my moves.
I would not. Could you put that picture up there one more time, please? I would not be that dude. I can tell you that right there. The guy diving on the ground, I would not be that dude.
Now, all right, the only way we're going to be able to settle this, mano a mano, is arm wrestling. Now, I have some bad news. I'm having back surgery in 3 weeks, so I am not going to be able to arm wrestle you.
Oh, really?
However, we have someone on staff that I've chosen to arm wrestle you in my place.
So you wrote a check for somebody else?
Yeah. Ben Folk. We have Ben Folk come on out here. All right. We asked Ben Folk to arm wrestle you because out of everybody on our staff, we're fairly certain he is the only one you're not going to rip his arm off his torso. All right? So, are you ready?
Let's go.
All right, you got the arthritis in the shoulder. And come on. All right, you ready? I want you to pummel him. All right? I want you to pummel him. All right. Everybody, we're going to count it down together. You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, he's playing with you. He's playing with you. Break his knuckles on the table. Feel free. Awesome. Real quick, if you're new here and you don't go to church anywhere, we want you to know we want to be your church home, man. And even if you don't come back for a while, we don't see you again until Christmas. We want you to know we'll be your church, consider us home base, and I'll be your pastor. And hopefully when times get tough, or whatever happens, your kids are asking questions, we want to be the kind of church where you know you can come back home. Everybody, let's thank Brian Dawkins for coming here. You've been awesome, man. You've been awesome.